Where shall we go today? Where shall we go? Where do you want to go today? Let's visit Chester! Despite Chester being one of the oldest villages in the world, the car parks are actually quite posh. Well, to be fair, the car park is very, very pretty. It's incredibly difficult to get out of. I've been doing this for about 3 hours and I'm still not out of here yet, I think. Despite not having a beach, or a sea, or anything else, Chester is very, very popular for old stone walls. Even people from foreign countries come in big, long crocodiles to visit the place. If you ever need a haircut when you're in Chester, don't worry. There's a barber right here. Although weirdly, he doesn't cut hair, he sells clothes. The massive watch behind me was built for Queen Victoria in 1897. Unfortunately, it was supposed to fit on her hand, but all they had to go off was the statue that was 18 times her size. It was too big, so they just stuck it on a pedestal and stuck it on an old bridge. Not all buildings in Chester are old, some of them are ancient. Chester has a river running through it. It's called the River Dee, as in D-double-E, but that's not its real name. A bit like the M6, the M51, the M1. It was actually, Dee was a name for a driveway. Because they didn't have cars, they used boats, it was still a driveway. And this was number 33. But over the years it's got lost in translation and has become the River Dee. Oh, this is the Canal. Many people ask why all the buildings in Chester are black and white. Well, the simple answer is colour wasn't invented when these buildings were put up. So here we are at Queen Victoria's watch. And as you can see, I mean, it wouldn't even fit on my manly wrist. It is just too big. Although this is not Wales, it's quite near Wales. And though people were very short in Wales, they didn't just massively grow when you got to England. So the people around here were just mediumly small, which is why there's these narrow, low walkways which are made of houses with holes in. It's a well-known fact that the Romanians first built Chester back in 1625, just before they built somewhere else, York. When the Romanians come over from Italy, they didn't use planes or trains or even the Channel Tunnel, because none of them existed. What they used was elephants. And here we have an actual elephant, actual size of the elephants that they brought over when they come to build Chester. Amazing! Roman Russia that comedian with the lazy eye, he's just started a TV show. Being a judge in a court. It wasn't the first though. Rufus Hound. He did it years ago, and here's a sign to Rufus's court. No matter where you go in Chester, you are surrounded by buildings, particularly if you're in a square that's surrounded by buildings, which are very old buildings. And these buildings are really, really old indeed. In fact, behind me there is Chester Cathedral hidden behind the trees, which is a good thing for it because it's not the prettiest building in the world. However, of interest in this square, we've actually got a circle, and in fact it's not just any circle, it is the first roundabout in the world, fully preserved as it was back in the days of 1722 when it was first built by Brian and his wife Mary. So after the success of making the oldest ever roundabout, although when they made it, it was the newest ever roundabout, and the only ever roundabout for that matter, the Chesterans decided that they're going to make a new roundabout, but they're going to make it better than any other roundabout in the world. So it's not just going to have a fountain in it, it's not going to have topiary, just topiary or anything like that. In fact, it's got a lake and a fountain and topiary. It's the multifunctional roundabout of Chester. To be fair, Chester Cathedral does look better. It does look better from the front than it does from the back. But it's still not a pretty building. But you can go in there and visit and have a look round for only £55, 64p per child, double for adults. Underneath the church is this gift shop, which is really nice. Lots of items to buy for people who you may like or don't like, it doesn't really matter. But it looks amazing. And you are underneath the church, you can even hear the choir singing in the background. There are more sides to a cathedral than just the back side, and this is like a corner, weird side thing. But I think you'll agree, it is pretty unpleasant. Here we see Chester Cathedral again, from a completely different angle, because this time it's made in dirt, not rock. You could be forgiven for thinking that we are in America, what with a Disney shop on one side and an American candy shop on the other. But we're not, we're still in Chester. Now, far be it for me to criticise anyone who does blue plaques, but they've put Romans instead of Romanians. What idiots. The sign says new look, but I don't think this shop's had a new look for about 400 years. We all loved Echo the Dolphin back in the day on the Mega Drive. That stupid game that no one knew what was going on. Well, since then he's retired and opened up a shop. It's a shoe shop, which is ironic because Echo the Dolphin, he had flippers, he didn't have shoes. Chester used to have a famous zoo. They had animals and other animals, and then they had animals as well. Sadly, it's fallen on hard times, and this is all that remains. We've got a giraffe and a chicken. Here we are at the Old Romanian Wall, which has even got the original Romanian steps going up to the top of it. Behind me we see King Charles Tower, which was named after a dog, because if you squint in a certain light it looks like a dog begging for food. Although this wall is not as high as, say, a bridge in Newcastle, YA, it's still quite high up, and you get a lovely view of people's houses and flats. And if you look very carefully, you can just about see a brand new bus station. Oddly, Chester's pedestrianised way is open access for buses. What the? There's another bus on a pedestrianised way. I mean, what the heck is going on? If you're a fan of worshipping fairy tales and stuff like that, and you go to churches, you can do a lot worse than come to Chester. Here we've got the chapel of Henry Memorial. Although sadly, it doesn't look like it's been used for some time. Chester Village has recently invested into a new bus station, and it's quite posh. So posh, they don't even call it a bus station. They call it a bus interchange. But if you arrive here, you're not changing, you're just getting off. As you can see, we've already found out that buses in Chester completely ignore pedestrianised ways, but they're safely kept behind glass in this bus station, and there's a handy map there as well, so you can find which bus and where to go to, and it's even textured for the people who like touching things. Now, the Romanians were a bit like the Victorians in the fact they didn't like getting wet when they went shopping. So the Romanians built their buildings sticking out a little bit so that you could walk underneath while shopping and not get wet, an idea which the Victorians stole. The sign above me says St. Weyborough Mount, but how we could have fornication with a shop is beyond me. Takes everyone, I suppose. Chester also features well-known brands such as Poundland, Greggs, and of course, a sex shop. I did say earlier that the Chester Zoo had shut down, and well, it's just gone a bit rubbish. It hasn't. Look, it's reopened over there. There's got an aviary and a few other bits and pieces as well. You can go and visit it just for £15 a second. Many times it's very important to look out where you park, because otherwise you might get a ticket. And if they're really angry with you, they might even smash your window. Here we've got the hat place. They tell you what they sell hats. Next door though, we've got a shop that's just called Francis Thomas. No idea what that sells. There are many pubs here in Chester, including the Red Lion, but also the Pied Bull. But I mean, if you get a bull drunk, that's just animal cruelty, isn't it? I'm not saying the Romanians were ahead of the time when they built this wall, but they've actually installed a record shop. Records weren't invented until about 500 years after this was built. It's amazing. Sadly, it's closed at the moment. Again, we're on a bridge which for some reason is called a gate. The Romanians didn't understand English very well. But what they did understand is occasionally they have to do roadworks. And they were the first people ever to invent diversions. The beauty and elegance of Chester is plain to see for everyone. The Romanians did a really good job when they built this place when they come over from Italy. And it's inspired many people, including the artist Banksy.
Who?
Not only does Chester have buses that can kneel, it also has a closed down British home store. Here we have the oldest statue holding plinth ever. It was made in 1627 out of rock and had a statue of a man balancing a bird on his head. Unfortunately, the birds nicked it. And the bird's just had a poo right next to me. The plaque behind me doesn't mention the word Romanians, so there's no spelling mistakes, but it does mention a 12th century hermit who may have lived a bit nearby. But no one knows, of course, due to the fact that it was 12 centuries ago. That's why it's called the 12th century. But look, I wonder if I'll meet him. I wonder if he's still around. I was actually manager here for one day. I was filling in for someone else, and I got a keyring. And the keyring is actually Colin McRae keyring that I still use to this day. That was when I was manager of game, and I was just filling in at Wrexham. I was working at Wrexham, but I was filling in at Chester for one day. If you like climbing up and down old stairs to climb on top of old walls, you could do a lot worse than come to Chester. You could go to Newcastle though, because that's a lot better. There's a shop here called Back Alley Music. Ironically, it's on a main street. Chester is famous for its musicians such as Oasis and the Smiths and this guy. If I had a gold buzzer, I'd give him one, and then I'd press the gold buzzer. Yes, it's playing Limp Bizkit on a guitar. Anyway, more steps, and these bring you to the world's smallest TSB bank. Here is a dirt recreation of a genuine Romanian from Italy. When we were in rugby, I told you that it was named after the game rugby. Well, Chester is very similar. It is named after the game chess, which used to be called Chester, but was shortened later to chess. However, Chester has never actually given us a grandmaster, or even anyone who plays chess anymore. When the Romanians from Italy moved in here and made the town of Chester, they put on a new thing, which was basically stacking shops on top of each other. These were the first high-rise shops in the world. And here we've got Sally's Secret Garden, which ironically isn't a garden, it's a shop. The problem with this plan of having the shops stacked on top of each other is people had to climb stairs to get to them. So if you look down below, there's quite a few people milling around. And then if you look up here, there's nobody. It's very, very odd. Chester is a very religious town, and we even have preachers on a bank holiday Monday. You wouldn't believe it, but we're less than 16 miles from the centre of Chester, walking through this very narrow alley full of, well, a shop and a bijou restaurant. Many towns have circuses visiting, and Chester Village is one that does, including the American Circus, Uncle Sam's no less. Also, we've got the Bounce Zone coming as well. That's at the school holidays. Yeah, can't wait for that. But remember, the inspiration of Chester is amazing. It just inspires everyone. It's inspired me, but most of all, it inspired Banksy. So there you go, Chester. It's got the best of the old, it's got the older than that, and it's also got the slightly more modern. If you want to come out and go somewhere for a day, you could do a lot worse than Chester. Mind you, you could do a lot better. So next time, bye.
Where shall we go today? Where shall we go? Where do you want to go today? Let's visit.
Banksy. Ah, it'd be Bank Holiday Monday. Well, they're all closed on a Monday.